living in the moment, and the moment is the future.
Welcome to SPEDTalk with Pam,
and John,
also known as The Calm.
Before the Storm.
Our purpose is to elevate the conversation and amplify special education resources.
And our why is about making the impossible possible.
SPEDTalk really is just a positive podcast that tries to capture stories and humanize people. And people that know us, that know in this liaison role that we do in Texas for ESCs, kind of laugh at me and Pam because we're like the oddball couple, you know. But really it's just about capturing some positive things in the world that are occurring and trying to highlight those stories over some of this negativity we hear out there. Because in fact, there are people like yourselves making a difference in the lives of people with disability. And so, Pam, come on, shut me up.
Yeah, I was getting ready to shut you up. We need to get started. So we're here in Lubbock, Texas at the Cotton Bowl Consortium. And with us today, which is totally awesome, we have Dr. Sean
Robinson.
So it's like, I just got Dr. Sean, and I was thinking that's
AKA Dr. Dyslexia dude.
Right.
Yeah, man. So we are super excited to have Dr. Robinson with us. You know, we just sat through a totally inspiring presentation you did for the Cotton Bowl Consortium here in Lubbock. And, you know, I was watching people in the crowd kind of nodding and relating. I was moved, I think, up front just because of like the vulnerability you showed, like right off the bat. And I'm just going to throw it out there that, you know, I'm an emotion-driven person. And I think sometimes we have people out in the field working with kids that keep their emotions too close to their chest and they're not vulnerable with people. And we learn through relationships, you know? And so immediately I felt connected to you. What do you want me to call you? Dr. Robinson, Dr. Dyslexia dude, Sean? Yeah. Well, and so we were blown away for one thing by just your story, your background coming from, you know, being that struggling kid, came up through special education, teachers, people told you, look, this ain't gonna work. This ain't for you. Go find another way. But along the way, you had people in your lives that kind of connected you back to, hey, there is possibility. There is potential in you. And so I was so moved. That's the reason I said, Pam, I'm gonna go see if this dude would jump on with us. Like, this would be powerful. So will you just share a little bit of your story with us?
Yeah. We want to know
everything.
How much time do we have? No, I'm joking.
Man, we got as much time as you need, but I don't want to. But we're respectful of your time.
I mean, I guess it's probably no different than any other student in special education, right? You know, students who struggle with reading, who you know, otherwise want to avoid reading, right? Who then find ways to take themselves out the game before they're actually in the game, right? Or don't know how to effectively communicate their emotion or their needs of wanting to learn to read because, you know, they've experienced so much failure after failure that you essentially just give up, right?
Yeah.
You just, like, if you try something so many times and it doesn't work, you kind of just, you know, you have to have a deficit perspective of how you see yourself. So I don't think it's any different than, you know, most kids in special education.
Yeah, I would kind of agree with you. One thing you did mention, doing the negative so people would not know that you weren't able to read.
Yes.
So I always say when I'm doing trainings is like students will do whatever to save face.
Yeah.
I rather you think me bad than to know that I can't read or that I can't do a math or I can't do.
Yeah.
So if you just say I'm just a bad actor, then that's fine. I can live with that rep, but I could not live with people knowing that I'm not able to read.
Yeah.
So
It's psychologically damaging.
Yeah,
right.
It really is.
Takes people out the game before they're even in the game.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
So,
Yeah, that's powerful, man. You know, and like I mentioned earlier, I totally related with your story. I was back in the back, almost tearing up with you at times when you were expressing how much of a struggle that was growing up in public school systems. You know, I'm not even sure your age, but I mean, just knowing that, you know, I just empathized with that so much because I experienced a lot of those same struggles myself growing up and always felt like I was 2 steps behind. Like it was like, you know, growing up in poverty, growing up, you know, in a single parent household, growing up with ADHD and with emotional problems. And I was that kid that I wouldn't act outward, I would act inward.
Yeah.
And so, you know, hearing how the buddies I ran with in the street, right, they would act out in school. So they would get kicked out. Well, I would just get pushed through the system, you know, until I finally got to be junior, senior. And I'm like, man, I'm fixing to graduate. I can't even read. I don't even know how to navigate these things. I can't go wait tables because I can't talk well enough and articulate my, needs well enough. So I'll be a busboy. You know what I mean? Those kind of life decisions, like you talk about, that take you out of the game and make you believe that you are less than or that you can't achieve, are those things that are very real in the lives of so many kids. And so, man, I totally related with that. And so, will you talk to us a little bit about some of those mentors, those people along the road that saw something in you that kind of pulled you up and made you start seeing it in yourself?
Yeah, Coach Carpenter was a respectable special education teacher. He's also a basketball coach, but a lot of people had a lot of respect for him, not just in the context of the school, but the outside community, because he was well known, and he always taking chances with students. And when people would give up on students, he was always like, no, I want to be able to make sure I find multiple doors to open before I say the doors closed completely, right?
Yeah.
For him or Mr. Catania, who was a little Italian dude that was, stacked and put the fear of life into people, And so I just think, those teachers and other ones too, but particularly Mr. Carpenter, got me involved with coaching Special Olympics. And that really, I think, helped me understand what leadership skills were, but also from a place of service, because, it's service. You're not getting, it's not like a paid job,
right. It's all intrinsic. Yeah.
And so that helped me out understanding that community of learners and student athletes that I coached. They became like a family. They came to my graduation, undergrad, masters, came to my wife's and our wedding party. So, they became like extended, immediate family. I spoke at a lot of their banquets. I went, down to Southern Illinois for their summer games for the state of Illinois. So, through other experience, I worked with kids that were blind, deaf, cerebral palsy, autism. So I got a variety of life experiences, and I think otherwise I would not have received if I wasn't in that situation, even as a high school student. But that just taught me a lot about life, man. It just taught me that, look, man, we're all different, right? We all have gifts, right? I mean, those athletes, man, besides their determination, they're always like full of love.
Yeah.
Kids would call them they'll call them retard, and they didn't know how to respond, but when they did respond, it was always a place of love.
Yeah.
Like they didn't know any better.
Yeah.
But then it started making me think like, wow, I can learn something from them versus me giving them something or expecting them to give me something, like the me kind of attitude. Like it was really a blessing, man, to be able to be in that environment to learn social skills, communication skills. A lot of kids I worked with, or kids, young adults at the time I worked with, a lot of them couldn't communicate. So one of my teachers at the time, another Special Olympic teacher or coach too, Mr. Goldstein, he always said, look, you got to be patient and you got to listen with your eyes, not your ears. Because sometimes students can't speak. Yeah. So you have to
verbal cues.
You have to just be observant of your surrounding, because they'll give you clues, but if you're not really watching and listening with your eyes, you're gonna miss it. Yeah. So maybe really think about how I not listen with my ears, but listen with my eyes and watch and learn how to communicate with students that orally were not able to communicate, but they use their hands or knees or shoulders if they want, if they want left or right, they would do this, or they point if they wanted something. So
everyone communicates, whether it's verbal or not. It's learning that. Yeah,
it taught me a lot too, man. Just to about just appreciate life, man, because those parents and their children, they didn't ask to come to this world with Down syndrome or cerebral palsy or being blind or deaf. They didn't ask for that, but a lot of parents saw always positive, but I knew deep down they were hurting too, that their daughter wasn't normal, but what's normal in a sense, right? But it just taught me a lot about just this life, man. It taught me just to appreciate the small things, because, again, tomorrow's not promised. Yeah. And so, I just took a lot of things I used to take for granted. I stopped, particularly when I was coaching with these student athletes. Even when I got to college, I started, volunteering, or I would go back home to my home community. So I always made sure that I gave back to those that, provided me a space of learning.
Yeah. And so then from there, I guess you found that belief in yourself to keep taking those next steps. It's like, I know so often in our lives, we when we give of ourselves, we all of a sudden see something in ourselves we didn't even see before. Like, wow, this feels good. Like, I know education was a second career for me. I was, like I said, I worked in restaurants and grocery stores and things like that as a young man, because I honestly was set up to not be real successful after high school, and limped my way through and got through. But, and when I found myself, when I made a move, I found myself working as a paraprofessional with PPCD kids and then behavior kids. And immediately it was like my heart was filled up. These kids like loved me unconditionally. And all of a sudden I didn't feel like that broken person that came into that role. I felt like, well, they see something in me. And, and I mean, I got high off of that. It was like, wow, man, these kids love me. I love serving these kids. And then all the way up through my educational career, until even as a SPED director, and always driving the bus for Special Olympics. And because that was the best part of my year, anytime I could be out with the kids, like, because they filled my bucket, and I think that that's powerful. And so, but from there, you kept on pushing, and then bachelor's degree, master's degree, and then ultimately PhD, right? I mean, will you talk a little bit more about that kind of just that evolution?
Yeah, just because, when Dr. Nash diagnosed me, with dyslexia and helped me crack the code and really taught me how to appreciate our sound structure and language, linguistics, and, just to have appreciation of it. It just really it unlocked, I think, something in me that was already there, but no other teacher was able to unlock that, particularly within the context of learning to read and academics. And so once you unlocked it, I just became a sponge, and I don't know, I just became like a bulldozer and just started to just keep moving forward, man, like the little train. Choo choo.
Just learn. What else can I learn?
I just kept moving and bobbing and weaving like Muhammad. I just took the blows that came and learned from my mistakes. I tell people that everyone likes to see the glamour of things, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, you've reached this level of status, or you're this and that. I'm like, yeah, but that's not really all of it, man. You gotta understand, like, to get there, you gotta go through trials and tribulations and failure. You gotta be okay with knowing that failure is really what defines your character.
Amen.
Not the other stuff. Like that's
anybody can win.
Yeah.
Anybody can win. Yeah.
But you gotta really understand that you have to be okay with failing and be comfortable with failing.
Yeah.
You have to be comfortable with having that psychological feeling of failure, and you're gonna have to just pull up your big boy pants and keep it moving.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that's what it is. What it is. It's life. Some people are handed a wooden spoon, and some people are not.
Yeah.
And I'd rather have not been given a wooden spoon, because I know how much more I appreciate the value of hard work and failure versus
the struggle.
Give it to me and say, oh, here, Sean, here.
Right. Well, you don't appreciate it.
Yeah.
And then you take it for granted.
Yeah.
At this point in your life, probably you wouldn't be out doing the work you're doing, giving back through these types of presentations. And I hear you go to like juvenile justice and try to talk with the inmates and stuff and work with them. And, I think that, like, do you feel like just your struggles made you more gritty and made you more, dogged and like, look, man, I'm going to make sure other people, if I can share my story with them, then I'm going to give it to them.
Yeah, I think knowledge is power, right? And if you don't understand the rules of the game, you're not going to be in the game. Yeah. Like you can't play if you're not in, right? Right. No matter if you're white, black, Hispanic, Asian, special ed, non-special ed, like. It's all game out here, man. You gotta understand how to play the game, and I'm not the best at it. I still make mistakes, but at the end of the day, you just gotta understand how to navigate this a space that's not really designed not just for students of color, but also students with learning disabilities.
Yeah,
it's not designed for us. Period. Yeah, it's not. The rules are for those that have the capital, and those that have the external resources, to get what they need. Yeah, I mean, it's just that's. It is what it is. It
is.
I mean, it's people always say, oh, you talk about race, and this, that, and the other, but you really think about it within the context of education.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, it's not like
the system is designed for those people that we've decided that are worthy, right? And that's kind of one of the big things I preach a lot of times is, we give the best to the best, the worst to the worst, and everybody else figures it out in the middle somewhere. And that's the way our system has been predicated, right? It's a deficit model,
Yeah.
and it's based on, hey, we have diminishing capital. We can only give the best to so many,
Yeah.
and I've strongly felt like for years, like, okay, we have this GT model of education.
Mhm.
Why don't we give that to all the kids,
Yeah.
especially our kids who are in special education, because they would thrive in those experience-rich environments.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
We
I
also
feel
think
you.
about. I'm not sure if this is a language that Texas uses or if it's universal, but in the K-12 system, do they still say remedial or remediation?
Most, it's
It's
used,
the intervention model now. Everything's intervention, which
it's not used
means
as often. It's more about accelerating.
Yeah, I want to say, but is that term that some people still
Yeah,
use?
but it comes down, although we say terms like accelerated,
yeah.
it comes down to remediation.
Yes.
All right. So this is something, I talked about in the podcast, particularly within the context of special education, right? We hear all these teachers going through PD, right? Like letters or other reading programs to help them become better at not just identifying students, but also giving them the right intervention, the right access to language, right? You hear that, right? Teachers going through PD, right?
Yeah. Dyslexia is huge in Texas right now.
So think about this. If teachers are going through this type of training, then aren't they getting remediated too then?
Right.
Because they are learning something that is not foreign to them.
That's right.
And so it's essentially then you are also remediating teachers.
That's right.
So if you're going to tell me that little Johnny is unable to read, but you're giving him high quality instruction, the same that you received from a training, then you in fact have been remediated yourself.
Yeah.
And so then if you're going to use that term training or advanced PD with yourself, you need to frame what you do with the students that it's advanced language learning.
Yes.
Like it's AP learning.
Yes.
It's not remediation.
Right.
Because you're remediating him, you in a sense have been remediated too.
That's right.
That's why, I mean,
it's high leverage stuff. It's not remediation for these kids. Right.
It's like the slide you showed earlier this morning, the AR. And how AR and how that sound can be used in various, and I was sitting there looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, at the most I've ever seen someone show AR is maybe 3 examples.
Right.
And that's more than 3 examples. And I think it's breaking down that language. And John and I were talking. I said, I learned from whole to part. I'm not really a part to whole person. I have to see the whole thing and then I can break it down to where it makes sense to me. And working with students, I've learned the same thing, that with some students, it is really about letting them see the whole thing. And then we sit down, let's break it down to where we can understand it, where we can talk about it, where they could, really give meaning to it. And I think that sometimes gets lost in this whole concept of teaching reading, is allowing the person who's trying to read to make meaning, to get meaning.
Yes.
Because sometimes a teacher, if we're teaching it based on how the book said, then we're not really looking at the person that we're teaching it to and taking consideration how they learn and how they process information and how do they make sense of it. And I think there's just a lot of young people who are capable, but we have not gotten to a place where they learn, their learning style, their ability to read. And I think, when you showed that this morning, I thought,
it was powerful.
Yeah.
It's all about access, right?
Yeah.
So it's all it comes down to who controls knowledge and who delivers the knowledge. Because if you teach somebody how to read, you liberate them, right?
Yes.
Then they become self-empowered. And a lot of systems don't want people to be self-empowered.
That's right.
They want people to be puppets, right? I'm your master. I'm going to control you. So if I can control you, then I own you. And if you can't read, essentially, I own you and I control you.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what the system does. And that type of high level of thinking or curriculum, again, it's usually reserved for white middle class teachers.
Yeah.
Particularly women. I mean, just because the reading force is predominantly white women.
Yeah.
I mean, in Wisconsin it is. I don't know how Texas.
I imagine it is across the nation.
Yeah, right. And so again, or if you're at a high level, 4-year research institution and you're going to a master's or a PhD in cognitive science or linguistics or there's something around the brain. Again, high level instruction. It's really not afforded to students. That's why I made it clear that the tech college that was going to be made free for not just adults, but also students adolescent students.
Yeah.
So we started getting teachers calling and saying, hey, I want to take the class too. And I told the administration, no, this is not for teachers. This is for students.
Yeah.
Like, period.
And do you have to kind of cap some of that because you only have so many slots in the classes you're offering?
I'm a believer in, I've taught groups of 20 students at a time. I'm always a believer in small learning environments.
Yeah.
So I try to keep it at 10, but
so you can personalize
my
it and really know them.
Yeah, my deans asked me for 15. I said, not a problem, but you get 15 a roll, but you're not gonna get all 15 that stay. So
yeah.
I mean, it's just part of the community college life. Students come and go.
Yeah.
So the ones that stay, the ones that are accelerated. So it all just comes down to who are the policymakers and who's going to allow students to have access to this knowledge.
Yeah.
So
you talked about something earlier that really spoke to me, and that was about helping your students, adult students, or even high school level students that have conversations around language acquisition. To me, that was real powerful because I feel like we all learn through stories and through communication and through peers and so the example you shared was, how can I, help them own this learning is what I was hearing. It was like, look, this isn't mine. This belongs to you. You guys have to get talking about this stuff if you want to understand it. And so, like, I love that example.
That's what I do. I tell students, look, I'm gonna give you the knowledge. I'm gonna, scaffold you there. But I'm not gonna I'm not gonna like hold your hand. Like, if you want this enough, you're gonna put on your own thinking cap and think for yourself, and you're gonna become, a scholar of this craft yourself.
Yeah.
And you're gonna internalize it, and then you can ask me questions, things you don't understand, or ask your classmates. And that's what happens. Now they talk amongst each other about words and the origin of words and why it's this, and and so I just give them the information, and I say, hey, I want now you to have a conversation about it, But at first, it was I had to lead them to that point.
Yeah.
And then once I got to that point, then I was like, hey, now you're on your own in class. Like, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put you small breakout rooms virtually online. I'm gonna stay in my main session. I'm gonna give you the whole class. We'll come back the last 10 minutes and we'll talk about what you learned, and that's it. So
and then they go after it after that. Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned something earlier too, and that was having street cred. Have people, the folks that you work with respecting you because they say, look, this guy relates to me.
Yeah.
Like, he shares his story, and like, if you're vulnerable like you were in there with your students, then I know they love you because, I mean, at the end of the day, we're not looking for people that are messiahs that want to like take us under their wing and be, let me teach you everything. They're looking for people that are like, look, man, I'm on a journey with you. I want to learn alongside you. You're going to teach me something today as much as I'm going to teach you something today. And like, that's what I was hearing from you in there. That was inspiring to me. Yeah.
I'm not a god, man. I'm gonna die one day, so I'm on this earth. I might as well be of some sort of service. Yeah. Because, I don't know when the good Lord's can call me home, and, can't take this knowledge with me. So I might as well be a place where, I could, share what I've learned. But again, everyone has their own knowledge. They come to class with their own knowledge. And so all I'm doing is just giving them the different tools and strategies, and then they're on their own. Yeah. So I said 3 things happen in my class. You become confident, independent, and empowered. You become confident in your own world, whatever, how you define confident.
And make room for someone else.
That's it. I mean, it's just reality,
Yeah.
Right.
You
gotta want it.
You gotta want it. And so that's what I tell students is, if you want it, put the time into it, you'll see results.
Yeah.
But if you don't put the time into it,
yeah,
I don't want to hear you crying. I don't want you to complain. I don't want to hear anything because you didn't try.
Yeah.
If it's not for you, it's not for you. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna be offended by it.
Yeah.
I got mine. But if you want it, you have to be hungry enough, and you have to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, like I said, no one cares about excuses, man, in the world.
So making that leap for you, like teaching at the collegiate level, but then even bringing that, making it available. I know you mentioned like all your courses at the collegiate level are free. If you're
college, if you're a resident of Wisconsin,
resident in Wisconsin, and you were adamant about that, that you wanted, because you, once again, I guess it comes back to your passion for giving people access.
Yeah, access,
Yeah.
Even I'm even starting a teacher training program outside of the college, independently of myself. And it's going to be pretty much what I teach at the community college, but what I also learned, because basically the course is I've taken Dr. Nash's work because he signed it over to me before he passed away. So I've kind of made it a little more advanced. And so what I'm doing for teachers training is that I'm giving 8 sessions starting in January, 3 hours each Sunday afternoon for 8 consecutive weeks. And I'm going to teach them specifically how I help students crack the code and what tools and strategies they can implement immediately. Like not waiting a year to do a training or 2 years to do a training. Like after these 24 hours, you will have best practices that you can implement then and now within those 24 hours and after for students, specifically students in middle school and up. You can do the same thing with elementary school kids. You just have to tailor the instruction for them. Yeah. But I'm offering, it's going to be 8 weeks, 8 sessions, 2 months, 3 hours each session, and a total $600. Yeah. That's $20 a session.
That's cheap.
It's cheap.
Yep. And that's a commitment too, because people are saying, look, I'm going to give you my Sundays. And you're saying, I'm going to give you my Sundays. So this is kind of like this. We're in this together. If you want this, if you want to grow and you want to learn and you want to take and apply what I do, here it is. I'm giving it to you, you know, and that's powerful. So, you know, man, I got 1,000 questions in my head, and I know I want to be respectful of your time, but
I got to get to, I'm going to get to, I'm going to go get my son some, every time I go speak, I go to the bookstore and get some pennants.
Yeah. So listen, we're wrapping up here. We are so blessed to have just even have a minute with you, you know, and to have you share. Like, I'm so excited to check out your graphic novels.
Yeah, they're very inexpensive.
Dr. Dyslexia Dude,
and we made sure another thing we want to make sure that they were accessible and affordable. So the first book's $5, second book $6, and then the third book is $9.20.
Well, let's.
John, tell everyone how they can continue to elevate the conversation about special education in Texas.
You got it, Pam. They can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at SPEDTalk 2020. Because in these disconnected times, connecting with others has never been so important. Now more than ever, it takes courage to create culture and kindness to keep us connected.
If you enjoyed this episode of Sped Talk, be sure to share it with a friend, because information should always flow through us, not to us. We couldn't do this without you, our listeners, and we need your help sharing the amazing transformation occurring in special education. Together, we can change the trajectory of learning opportunities in Texas for students with disabilities. If you have ideas, information, or resources that you think we should share on an upcoming episode of Sped Talk, let us know at SPEDTalk 2020 on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. And be sure to like our page while you're there. Oh yeah, and if you get a chance, please consider giving us a positive review on the podcast platform that you listen to Sped Talk.
Living in the moment, and the moment is the future.
With them and